Your friends are scrolling through short content, but you, my friend, you're here to learn. Welcome to TRS Clips. What's the reality of the Northeast now?
Northeast, except for this, what has happened now in Manipur, I think is totally under control. The violence levels have come down. Development has become far better. Connectivity has increased. There are more opportunities for people to go out, do all that. So, Northeast of my time is no longer recognizable. I mean, there's no comparison between that and this Northeast. And I would think it's all the more, all for the better of the people. Very gentle people, very nice people. Some perceived injustices, some real injustices have been done to them. And therefore, the history of Northeast is, again, violence was rampant, development was lacking, the belongingness to India was missing. But all that has changed over the years. Because time also heals some of the wounds. Sometimes more information means, or more information available to the people directly, not through the politician, means that they also start understanding that they're being played by politicians for their own political reasons.
When you talk to people from the Northeast, there's a lot of people who feel neglected by the Indian governments in general.
Sure.
Because of a lack of development. And they're like, there's so many micro situations that come up when you actually live in the Northeast. For example, if you want to take a flight to Bangkok, it's a 2-hour flight from the Northeast, but there's no flight to Bangkok from the Northeast. So they have to go to Delhi and then fly to Bangkok.
True. Or to Calcutta and then fly there. But then they had started all that. There is like I said, there is a perceived neglect and there is real neglect. First of all, partition in the West, between Punjabs of the two sides now, was violent. We had more killings and more deaths in that partition migration. But the effect of partition on the Northeast was far greater and longer lasting than the effects on the western parts of India. And I'll explain why. Because earlier the connectivity to the seas from the Northeast used to be through what is now Bangladesh. Once the partition happened and when East Pakistan was created, you can cut off those old links of commerce, of connectivity, of trade, all that. And suddenly, say from Tripura's capital Agartala, where you would go through the current Bangladesh in the pre-partition days and reach Calcutta from Agartala in 12 hours or 24 hours, you started taking by road, you started taking 5 days. Because you had to come through that small chicken's neck corridor at Siliguri, because you've cut off the physical links and you created a separate country. So that effect lasted too long for the Northeast. The development suffered, connectivity suffered, people couldn't go out, they became isolated. So out of mind became out of sight. Physical distance also meant that not much attention was paid by the successive governments at the center. In fact, again, come back to the Jawaharlal Nehru. I have a full presentation on this when I have divided the history of Northeast via the tenures of different prime ministers. So I've called Jawaharlal Nehru, a benevolent dictator for the Northeast. He would say, oh, they are very simple people, they are tribal people, let them remain how they are. Those headgear, the tribal attire, no need for big development. Like that. So first 17 years you had this. Then Indira Gandhi came. I call her the Durga and the Lakshmi. She tried the Durga avatar first by sending in the army. First instance and the only instance so far, touch wood, against our own people, where Air Force planes have gone and bombed a population center like Aizawl in Mizoram. It was under Indira Gandhi. And then when that didn't work, she started, if you can't beat them, buy them. So she poured in many thousands of crores of funds to create a class divide in the Northeast. See, the tribal society doesn't have any divide of like what is there in the rest of India, where you have a Brahmin, you have a Shudra, you have Dalit, you have a Vaishya. Nothing of the kind in the tribal area. But then she created, through this monetary incentives, she created two classes, haves and have-nots. So a cabal of bureaucrats, politicians, businessmen became rich overnight, filthy rich. And the people who it was meant for, the development funds, they got left behind. So she created the divide. So that's Durga and Lakshmi. I call that avatar of hers like that. So the best prime minister who did a lot for the Northeast was Vajpayee. And then Manmohan Singh, I would say, because he had a long tenure, 10 years. Otherwise, everybody else. And surprisingly, the best plans were made by Deve Gowda to the Northeast. He spent 7 days in the Northeast making up a package of development for the Northeast. So that's Northeast for you.
What's PM Modi's government's
Again, this is I mean, now, I was talking up to 2014. This government has done huge infrastructure development, huge development in connectivity, education, getting the people in the mainstream, sports-wise, Manipur, Assam, all that. So I think they have built on what Vajpayee had started. The department, I mean, the development of the Northeastern region as a separate ministry. The first minister, or one of the prominent ministers, was Arun Shourie under Vajpayee. And it began there, and Modi government has continued. So now they have done quite a lot. Of course, there's never an end to doing that, because you have to, I always say this, that you fix Northeast before you connect to Southeast or East Asia. When we are saying act East, before acting East, India needed to fix Northeast in terms of the parameters that are applied to other states. More or less it has been done now, except for these lingering problems that are there. Ethnic divide becomes a quick flare up, as it has happened in Manipur. But that's because you have multiplicity of ethnic groups in the Northeast.
Okay, where does that story go from here?
It's going to be difficult to recover very quickly. It is a deep-rooted wound. It reopens every 20, 30 years. Similar clashes had happened between the Kukis and the Nagas in 1992, 93. But this one is little more dangerous, because 70% of the population lives on 30% or 20% of the land in the Imphal Valley, the majority Meiteis. And the rest of the 30% population lives on 60 or 70% of the land. So there is this conflict and divide between these two groups, which is driving this entire flare-up that we've seen in Manipur. Unfortunate, but that's something that you cannot completely discount in the Northeast, given so many groups and ethnic identities are there. It's the identity politics in many ways.
So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to TRS Clips for more.